Let's feed Bokashi ferment to the worm bin. I'm Amanda, the ever hopeful gardener, and today we are going to try for the very first time feeding the worm bin some of my Bokashi ferment. Just a real quick explanation, what is Bokashi? I know it's a strange name. It's a Japanese term for fermented organic matter. This allows my family to be 100% zero food waste household because everything can go into these fermentation buckets. And then I can feel confident about composting them in my hot compost pile, adding them to a soil factory, or digging a trench and burying the fermented food. The reason for doing the fermentation is that it allows you to safely and confidently compost things like meat, dairy, bones, cooked foods, oily foods, all of the things. Everything you see here today is DIY. It is my DIY worm bin. These are my DIY Bokashi buckets. These are items you can easily make yourself, and in my opinion, they're better than what you can buy online for quite a bit of money. Bokashi composting does require a very special bran. These are spent brewery grains that are microbe inoculated, and the microbes are anaerobic, which means they do not live in oxygen environments. So this is why you have to have an airscape lid that keeps the smell in, keeps the air out. When you Bokashi ferment, you do not end up with a finished compost. This is a fermentation, so the food is going to look the same as when you added it. Even the way you know it's done is because it has a very strong vinegar smell, like sauerkraut or a super strong pickle, which makes sense because it's fermented. This is my DIY worm bin. It is an 18-gallon tote from Walmart. It has small holes drilled through at about 1-inch intervals all around the top lip. There are no holes in the lid that lets in too much air. And there are 6 1/4-inch holes in the bottom in case it needs to drain. But if you're doing it right, your bin should not need to drain, and mine never has. I have leaves as the top layer of my bedding, but you can also use soaked and then wrung out shredded paper. When I open my worm bin, the first thing I check is to see if there are 6 or more worms outside of the bedding. That is an indication that something's not right. The moisture level is wrong. There's too much food, not enough food. And I found 1 outside of the bedding. That's it. That's great. So I'm going to just pull this top layer of leaves over. Dig down just a little bit. Then we're going to add some of the Bokashi ferment. I can see there are edamame shells, some watermelon rind. Now I'm a little nervous to do this because typically when you add food to a worm bin, you add food that has been cut up into very small pieces. The worms don't have mouths like you and I do where they can chew food. They have to suck the microorganisms off the food. That takes a long time. So we typically put in small pieces of food. So I don't want to do too much because this is the first time I've ever done this. I'm a little nervous. I don't want to wreck my very happy worm bin. So we're just going to do this amount. Just going to put the lids back on these Bokashi ferments because while they don't smell like rotten food, it is a very strong smell. All right, now that we've got the Bokashi ferment in here, I'm going to cover it back up. Cover it up. Oh, there's an ant. Get out of here. All right, that's it. It's been 6 days. I actually meant to check this a lot sooner, but life got in the way. I can't remember which side I put the Bokashi ferment on, and so I'm just kind of looking around right now.
It seems like it was on this side because holy cow, there are so many worms on this side of the bin. Lots of people feed just one side of the bin and then they alternate which sides they feed, and the worms will move over to the side with the food. Let's just go ahead and cover this back up, and then we'll check the other side just to see what's going on over there. I'm not seeing many worms on this side, just reinforces the idea that the other side is where I put the Bokashi ferment. I'm impressed that after 6 days, all of the food scraps are gone. It was edamame shells, it was watermelon rind, and it was large chunks. I will definitely be feeding Bokashi ferment to the worm bin again.